Listen to the heartbeat.
Chevy is called the heartbeat of America for a reason. With SUVs made to move with your rhythm. The versatile Equinox tackles your entire day. The spacious Traverse fits your crew and your whole weekend. And Trax brings style with value you can count on. All infused with tech that has your back, so your drive always hits the right chord. Chevrolet. Together, let's drive.
Welcome into this week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast. It's a big week for the official podcast of minor league baseball. All-Star Weekend has arrived in Major League Baseball, which brings with it the Futures Game, the Major League First-Year Player Draft, all kinds of monster events. My name is Tyler Maughan. Sam Dykstra is going to be there for all of it. Hi, Sam.
Hi, Tyler. You should tell the good people who are listening where you are at in the world right now before we get going.
I'm sitting in a hotel in Prague. We just wrapped up Prague Baseball Week yesterday. Big congratulations to the Netherlands capturing the Prague Baseball Week title just a week after losing the championship game to Italy in Honkbal Week Haarlem, which is the Dutch Festival of Baseball. It's every other year. Prague Baseball Week, an annual event. It is awesome. If you have ever thought about coming to Prague and you're a baseball fan, just line it up for Prague Baseball Week because it's amazing. The weather has been incredible here. Prague is one of the most amazing places on earth, and it was a lot of fun. And I'll get to see you this weekend because I will be there as well. You will be in Philadelphia for the Futures Game. I'm flying. I'm leaving here tomorrow, getting to Philadelphia. I'll be there for MLB-X, which is what we are now calling what you formerly knew as Home Run Derby X, which will be right after the Futures Game. So it's going to be a big weekend, and you and I will get to share a hug or something.
Yes. No, we'll meet on the Rocky Steps and climb them together.
I was going to say I'm not riding, but we can climb them slowly.
We can. We'll figure out who's Apollo and who's Rocky in this metaphor, but one of us will be one of us.
I'm over 40 and you're approaching 40, so we got to take these things easily. One fall, Sam. You never know what could happen.
Just avoid the Russians at all costs, Tyler. If there's anybody who's Russian who approaches us on the street, please avoid them. We don't need a Rocky IV situation here.
Exactly. Well, we got a ton of stuff to talk about on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. Thanks for hanging out with us. You can get in touch with us, of course, as always, podcast@milb.com, and send us your questions, your thoughts, your comments. As we head into All-Star Weekend, we got the Futures Game, we got the draft coming up, and we're going to dive into any and all of it with the man who knows it all, Sam Dykstra. First event of this big weekend is the 2026 Major League Baseball First-Year Player Draft, which is coming up on Saturday in Philadelphia, Saturday and Sunday, but things getting started on Saturday. The first 10 picks will be from 1 to 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and then picks 11 through 40 will be later on that afternoon to wrap up sort of the first wave of selections. Picks 41 through 135 will be the remainder of the evening. But I mean, obviously, Sam, we're all focused on what happens toward the top end of the draft. Give us the last few days ahead of time. What's the feeling getting close to the kickoff of this 2026 draft?
Yeah, it's been really interesting to follow things along, and I want to give 100% credit to MLB Pipeline's draft coverage to Jim Callis and Jonathan Mayo, who are our leaders there. They do the draft 250, which has been updated in recent weeks. They're doing mocks every week. They're talking to sources all the time, trying to get a sense of where guys are going, what teams are like searching for in the draft, given where they are, given what their bonus pools are. And I think the great thing about this draft is that there is no clear number one overall pick right now. It felt like for much of the spring there would be, right? Rock Chalowski, the UCLA shortstop, was coronated pretty early in terms of like, oh, this might be the best collegiate shortstop prospect we have seen since Troy Tulowitzki. Tyler, I believe you know something about Troy Tulowitzki and his early career.
No joke. I saw a kid yesterday at the home of Eagles Praha for Prague Baseball Week wearing a Tulo jersey, like a prime, probably like 2012 Troy Tulowitzki Rockies jersey. It was great stuff.
There you go. Love finding baseball stuff all over the world. Well, Rock Chalowski had a good junior year. It was not quite up to the standard of his sophomore year. Was still a Golden Spikes Award finalist. Is still considered to be an exceptional defender at a premium position at shortstop. If you look at projection moving forward, there's still the possibility that he could be a plus hitter with plus power. He's not a fast runner, but he can still, cover tons of ground at short, has good hands, good throw, motion, all of that. But I think as people have drilled more down into this class, Grady Emerson, who Tyler, you also know well from the Home Run Derby X circuit.
In the
Um,
USA Baseball U18 national team last year, world champions at the U18 level.
yes. And Grady Emerson, coming out of Fort Worth Christian High School in Texas, I got to see at the high school home run derby last year. People think he has the best hit tool in this class. And I got to see him be a finalist. Like he came pretty close against Bo Peterson, who's another Texas commit, to winning that last year. So we know there's power in the tank as well for Grady Emerson. What Grady Emerson has on his side against Rock Chalowski is that he's younger. He's 18 years old. He's coming out of high school. Obviously, this makes sense, but Emerson is probably a better prospect now than Chalowski was at the same age. So do you take somebody who is like Chalowski, who is probably not going to need that much seasoning in the minor leagues and can help you pretty quickly, or Emerson, who might have a higher ceiling, but it's going to take years to get there? I'm sure a lot of the White Sox front office right now is having that conversation. And I also don't want to overlook Vaughn Lackey, the catcher from Georgia Tech. I feel like there's a pretty solid top three. Now, Jim and Jonathan on our other podcast, the MLB Pipeline podcast, did odds on who they think are most likely to go first overall. Jonathan had it 50-50 between Grady and Rock Chalowski. And then Jim put Vaughn Lackey at 2% going first overall to the White Sox. So he's saying there's a chance. And, it's not just who you like as a player, right? Because of MLB's draft system, it's also what are you willing to sign for? Could we get Vaughn Lackey for cheaper? I'm not saying he should negotiate for cheaper. I'm not saying he will. But if you can get him for a little bit less and that allows you to get a better player later in the draft, that's going to have value, right? So maybe that's going to be part of the conversation. But Vaughn Lackey, I wrote a feature on him this week. It was a lot of fun. It was based on an interview he did with Mark DeRosa of MLB Network. And he mentioned like he grew up as a third baseman coming out of Sewanee, Georgia. And then he was on a little league team. The little league team had a left-handed throwing catcher, and the entire parent group chat basically erupted and was like, "This isn't professional. We can't be doing this. Like, it's just simply not done." And so his dad was like, "Well, Vaughn will catch." And Vaughn's like, I don't catch. That's not a thing I do. Like, I've never done this before. His dad was just like, no, he can do it. It's fine. And from there, he blossomed into the top catching prospect in college baseball in this draft class, and somebody who I feel comfortable saying is probably a top three pick, either to, the White Sox at one, the Tampa Bay Rays at two, who have been searching for a franchise catcher for a long, 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 long time and are still haunted by the fact that they passed over Buster Posey years ago, or the Minnesota Twins at three. I think he's going to go to one of those three teams. He's somebody, again, who has really good power, is a little bit of a late bloomer, was not highly touted coming out of high school. I think Perfect Game had him as the 16th best catcher in the state of Georgia, never mind the country. But he goes to Georgia Tech, which is known as Catcher U. That's even something he wore on his chest plate. Because of Jason Varitek, Joey Bart, Kevin Parada, Matt Wieters have come out of that program. They do really well developing catchers for whatever reason. Georgia Tech, despite many changes in coaching staffs, et cetera, over the years, but he absolutely fits in that group. And I think the fact that he is a late bloomer means there's still upside to tap into, right? Like he's still growing. Chalowski, I will say he stagnated, but he was already at such a high talent level. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Whereas Lackey is still on the upswing. So I think there's still a chance he goes first overall. I think that would be really interesting for the White Sox. But then from there, I mean, there's just so many decisions that have to be made of like, I know the Giants, we talked about this a few weeks ago I think it was the Patrick Bailey trade. They actually got another draft pick in that trade, which means they got a larger draft pool. Now they drafted 4, and all the rumors running around at the time, and I heard this a little bit too, was that the Giants really wanted to float Rock Chalowski to number 4. And if they have a larger bonus pool, maybe they could do that. Now, all it takes is one of the White Sox, Rays, or Twins to say, no, we like the player. He's only going to negotiate with us. We'll figure it out. He's not going to risk going back to UCLA for another year, risk getting hurt, risk losing leverage, all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be really difficult for that to happen. So then what do the Giants do? They've been in a lot of mocks, and in our most recent mock, have been tied to high school bats, just because it seems like that's the next big swing there with Jacob Lombard, brother of George Lombard Jr., son of George Lombard Sr., coming out of high school in Miami. Eric Booth Jr. is another high ceiling name coming out of the high school ranks in Mississippi who gets floated there. But I also think Buster Posey has such connections to the college game that Jackson Flora, the top pitching prospect in this draft, would not shock me at that spot either. Just because I think he's somebody who values being developed as a collegian. And if he's calling the shots, which typically is what happens with these top picks, I think they would lean towards the college route. But I don't know. Maybe it's somebody like a Jacob Lombard is too good to overlook. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the things kind of tumble from there. A couple other storylines I'm just going to be looking at real quick here. Justin LeBron, shortstop out of Alabama, is somebody who I think if you were just looking at power, run, arm, field, he's a top 5 pick. He might be first overall. The hit tool is a massive question. Now, there's been a trend in recent years that teams have been willing to overlook hit tool questions if the raw materials are there elsewhere. And he certainly fits the bill. I'm thinking back to like Connor Griffin, right? Like everybody thought he was a potential superstar. They just had questions about the hit tool. Pirates took him anyways. And now, putting the recent injury aside, is one of the top talents in all of the sport and one of the top young talents in Major League Baseball. So I think teams think they can iron out the hit tool. It doesn't always work that way. Vance Honeycutt with the Baltimore Orioles is a perfect example of that. But I'm going to be interested to see who bites on LeBron, because I think that hit tool question could send him tumbling into the 20s. But all it takes is one team in the top 10 to be like, no, we're going to bet on the tools and take him. He's going to be fascinating. Tyler Bell, the shortstop out of Kentucky, is somebody we've constantly heard could go pretty high, maybe even as high as like number 2 to the Rays, who actually took him a few years ago in the draft out of high school. He was the 66th overall pick. So that normally 66 overall, you're signing. He chose not to sign. He went to Kentucky. He's a draft eligible sophomore, actually injured his non-throwing shoulder very early on in the year, and everybody understood that he was going to need surgery, except he wanted to play through it. And the fact that he did pretty well at Kentucky while having, a torn labrum in his left shoulder is incredible. So what happens when you're going to get him healthy, right? Like that's maybe a top 5 talent in this draft. We have him at number 10 in the draft 250. But would somebody like the Rays be like, hey, we liked you a lot last time. We still like you now. And we think if you take, a little bit of a haircut, we can make it work and get some better players later. So I think he's somebody who could absolutely go much higher than where he's slotted, at least in terms of draft ranking. And then one other I'll throw in just because, I am a Massachusetts guy at heart, but this is an interesting storyline. Brody Bamilla, the 6'9" left-hander out of Massachusetts. Everybody loves his fastball, right? It's already over 100 miles an hour. It gets really good ride at the top of the zone. The fact that he is 6'9" and he has a basketball background, like, is really special. Coming from a cold weather state, there's still tons to tap into there. Didn't need much of his secondary, so he has a slider and a changeup in the spring. Kind of tailed off at the end, and then it's been revealed that he shared, health information with clubs that revealed the UCL injury. He's probably going to need elbow surgery. He's already had one in his career. He had internal brace surgery back in May 2025. So do teams take that into account? Well, they're certainly going to take it into account, but do they still bet on the upside? Like 6'9" left-handers with 100-mile-an-hour fastballs don't grow on trees, and we know that, rehab and recovery and all that kind of stuff is easier to do. I don't want to say easier. I should take that back, but it's more successful now than it used to be. It's less of a risk. Or does he just not get picked because teams aren't going to offer him enough money, and he ends up going to Texas and, rests next year, comes out, dominates as a sophomore 2 years from now, and puts himself right back into the first round conversation. That's gonna be fascinating to see how it goes. Because again, like if he doesn't get drafted, it's not somebody saying he's not a top 10 round talent. It's just that they don't believe that he's signable given the injuries. or they are unwilling to sign him what he's asking for. It's all part of the negotiation. So tons of storylines. As Tyler said, tune in. There's so many different ways to follow the draft this weekend. We'll have tons of coverage at MLB Pipeline, but it starts at Saturday, July 11th at 1 o'clock. Picks 1 through 10 will be on NBC and Peacock. After that, switch over to MLB Network for picks 11 to 40, and then 41 to 135 will be on MLB.com. Day two, Sunday, July 12th, rounds 5 through 20, all on MLB.com. Jim and Jonathan will be running the show there. So it's a great way to keep tabs on who your teams are picking.
All right, Sam. The next day is a jam-packed day at Citizens Bank Ballpark, including the Futures game, which will be yet again loaded with talent. 39 of the top 50 prospects in baseball are on rosters for the Futures game this year. The American League and National League will square off with each other at Citizens Bank Park at noon Eastern time. Sam's going to be on that broadcast along with our friend Melanie Newman, which is very exciting. And I mean, just loaded squad, Sam, including. We always know that Sam Dykstra's got a Brewers guy. Jesus Made is going to be there. You pretty stoked for that?
I am pretty stoked for that. Yeah, the number one overall prospect will be there. 9 of our top 10 will be there. Leo DeVries will be on the American League side. It's just, I've said this other places. This is the most loaded Futures game that I can remember, just in terms of like what the quality of minor league talent is, how much of that the big names are going to be there. All the top pitching prospects are going to be there. Our top 3: Cade Anderson, Seth Hernandez, Ryan Sloan. It has an opportunity to be a really special game. It's only 7 innings again this year, so I think there's every possibility that it's a 2-1 ball game just because of the quality of pitching. We could only see top 100 arms the entire game. It is well within reason that happens. So that's going to be difficult for the bats on the American League and National League side. But hey, some of these guys are repeat Futures gamers, and I can't wait to talk to Yonder Alonso, who will also be on the broadcast, about that because he's been to 2 Futures games. And he was mentioning this a little bit when I was talking to him the other day, and we were in a meeting, and he said, the first one, you're wide-eyed. It's like a big deal. You're playing in a major league stadium. You're coming from minor league ballparks. It's a big deal. And the second one, you're like, okay, now it's kind of time to prove myself. Like I was, in his case, I think he thought he would be in the major leagues by then. That might be true of some of these guys, but like Josue Paula, who is trying to repeat as the MVP, the Larry Doby MVP award winner after going deep last year, I don't think he should expect to be in the major leagues by now. But maybe he's going to be pushing for that in the second half of the Dodgers. Winning MVP again, going deep again in this type of format against this type of talent is really going to solidify him on the map. Now, like we have him at number 4. It's tough for him to go much higher than that. But that these are the moments that stick with guys. Like I was talking to somebody else the other day about Pete Alonso hitting a home run in Washington, D.C. for the Futures game. And that was a little taste of like the Pete Alonso we've now known as one of the best right-handed sluggers of his generation. This is where those stories start to get told. So I can't wait to be on the broadcast for it, share some of those stories and get to see who's going to seize the spotlight when they're given the opportunity. So Tyler, you and I have done this in the past just to kind of, everybody likes to play manager in their own way, GM, however you want to view it, when Futures game rosters come out. So we're going to do a draft here, but we're going to do it a little bit differently than what we've done in the past. We're just going to go down the lineup sheet. It's just going to be, we're each going to take a catcher. We're each going to take a first baseman. We're each going to take a second baseman. It doesn't have to be even between American League and National League. It's just who do you want on the board at that time? And we'll compare our squads here at the end. I am going to be a gracious person, and I'm going to give you it's going to be first overall pick. It just means you get the first catcher. We'll snake from there. So I get catcher and first base, then you go first base, second base on down the line. So Tyler, you get first pick at catcher. Who are you going with?
Catcher, I think I'm going to go with a guy we've talked about a lot on this show. And I know the shine is a little bit off of him, but I'm still going to go with Ethan Salas. He's still, he's a 2006 birthday still. He just turned 20 years old. He's been playing, it feels like, in the upper minors for the last 3 years, which isn't actually the case, but that's what it feels like. I'm going to take Ethan Salas. The talent has been there forever for Ethan Salas, and we'll see if he is getting closer and closer to, maybe cashing that into the big league level, but that's my guy.
That is a good one, and I think there are going to be a lot of pitchers who love throwing to Ethan Salas over the weekend. It'll be really interesting to see how the National League rotates its catchers because my pick is going to be Raniel Rodriguez, catcher of the St. Louis Cardinals, somebody who, you know, one of the storylines, and I'm sure we're going to lead the show with it on Sunday, is about Jesus Madej and Leo DeVries being 19 years old at Double A and how they're so far ahead of the curve and all that stuff. Raniel Rodriguez is also 19 at Double A. And he got off to a rough start with Springfield, but has really turned it on in recent weeks. He's one of my favorite guys to watch hit. He's not a huge catcher by any means. He's under 6 foot, but his hands move so quickly. It's just a little bit of motion, below the waist to get him going, and then the hands fire, and he can pull the ball with good exit velos, with good power, with good strength. I think he's still coming along defensively as a catcher. They've even mixed in some time on the infield with him. But one thing I want to highlight here real quick with him is that Raniel Rodriguez is from the Dominican Republic, but actually moved to the Philly area as a kid. His family moved to Philadelphia for a bit. So he was playing baseball in Eastern Pennsylvania. He ended up moving back to the Dominican Republic. One story I read was just for family reasons. Because he moved back, he was able to sign internationally with the Cardinals, but because he had spent time in Pennsylvania, the international scouts hadn't seen him as much, so he was like a lesser known quantity or talent, however you want to put it. And now he's become, not only one of the best catching prospects in baseball, but one of the overall best prospects in baseball. So Raniel Rodriguez will be my catching pick. And then at first base, I will go with Ralphie Velasquez, Cleveland Guardians first baseman, also an outfielder, but somebody who we've liked for a while. He's the 23rd overall pick in the 2023 draft. Another guy with plus power. He's at AAA now, sprinkling in some time in the outfield as well. He's held his own so far at AAA, 791 OPS in 38 games, 4 homers in that time. He is only 21 years old, turned 21 in May. I think there's a really high ceiling here for Ralphie Velasquez, at least in terms of what he can be as a first baseman, given that power and given what he's shown so far. His home runs on the season are 11, so he's halfway to his career high mark of 22 that he set last year. I think he can absolutely be a future 30 homer threat in Cleveland, which is good because, as we know, the Guardians for years now have kind of struggled to develop real power threats or get those guys to show power in the major leagues. Even Chase DeLauter getting there now hasn't really been that guy that maybe they had hoped, at least in the power department this year. Ralphie Velasquez could be that maybe as early, he's at AAA now. Maybe he could be that in the second half for Cleveland. So Ralphie Velasquez at first base for me. Tyler, who you got at the cold corner?
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna take the hometown pick for my hometown. I'm gonna take Charlie Condon, who is splitting his time this year. The Colorado Rockies prospect between first base and the outfield. He's played more games at first base, so I'm gonna take him there. But Charlie Condon's had a really good season, and obviously it's at Albuquerque. It's in the PCL, but in 77 games, he's hit 20 home runs. He's got an LPS over 1,000. He's been really good this season. And, we'll see if this is the start of the ascent to the big leagues for a guy who was the third overall pick, rather, just 2 years ago.
Now you have second base still. We're
Oh,
snaking.
I'm going. Oh yeah, we're snaking. That's right.
We're snaking. Yeah.
Okay, second base. Second base is always an interesting spot because it feels, I don't know, we just always have such middle infield depth at short, and at second base there's, you kind of wonder like, do I want a guy who's got a little bit of versatility that I can move him around? Do I want a guy who's just going to stick it, that spot? But I'm going to go. I think I'm going to go with Max Anderson from the Tigers. Second base slash third base, a little versatility. Not that it's really going to matter if I'm taking him as my second baseman, but Max Anderson, the Tigers have had this wave of young talent coming up for a little while, and for Max Anderson to be a guy who doesn't need to be, right away contributing at the big league level, but is crushing at the minor leagues and is able to get that time to, develop into the type of pro guy that he can be. I really like Max Anderson. Plus, he's a Nebraska Cornhusker like me, so back-to-back homer picks. But I'm going with Max Anderson.
No, I wish I had done a mock of our draft, and I would have given you both Charlie Condon and Max Anderson for those reasons. So I like how that worked out. I'm actually going to go with kind of a hometown pick for you too, and Roldy Brito at second base. Technically has eligibility here. We've been trying to add him to the second base list, take you behind the curtain here at MLB Pipeline for a while now. But he's been getting more time in center field, which is good for him. Like I think he's going to be more valuable there. He's somebody with plus run. Let him get acres of space to run in. But he's a 19-year-old switch hitter, turned 19 in April. He's been at Single A Fresno this year, batting 327 with 389 OBP, 498 slug. I know it's the Cal League, like Tyler was saying about the PCL. Cal League's not exactly what it used to be. You know, Lancaster's gone. Some of these other absolute launching pads aren't there anymore. But it's still generally hitter friendly. But the fact that he is doing this, you know, stealing 18 bags, 7 homers, 20 doubles, 8 triples. Rolly Brito is somebody who is firmly on our top 100 right now. And I'm really excited. It adds a little bit of athleticism to my club. Third base. Third base. Feel like there's going to be an obvious one staring me in the face, and it kind of is. I will go with Caleb Bonnemer at third base. He's our number 16 overall prospect right now, top prospect for the White Sox for now. Everything we talked about earlier in the segment, I expect whoever they take first overall will probably become the number 1 overall prospect. But only 20 years old. He's playing this entire season at 20 years old. He's at Double A already. Started out the year at High A Winston-Salem, had 18 homers in 61 games. So they got him out of there pretty quick. He does have strikeout issues. I'm sure if you followed his career to this point, yes, there are significant strikeout issues here. But he's at 21 homers on the season. He's added 3 more in 19 games at Double A Birmingham so far. I think he needs a little bit more time to catch up to that level. But the power is so special for him. And he is a good defender. He can play short, he can play third. I think he could be really good at third base. The fact that they have Billy Carlson, if they had Rock Chalowski or Grady Emerson, even more is he going to be locked in at the hot corner. But I think that combination of power, a little bit of athleticism, good glove. There's a lot to like here with Caleb Bonnemer, and it's just we're getting on the upside here. I'm only picking him for a futures game, but I think he could absolutely be a big part of the infield moving forward on the south side.
Okay, so I'm going third base, then shortstop, correct?
You
You
are correct.
gave me the first crack at shortstop, Sam, which could
And I
be
take it all back. We erase this segment. We got to do something else.
crazy for you. Okay, well, at third base, there are not a lot of true third basemen on this list. I'm going to go with a guy who has played the majority of his time this season as a shortstop, but did play third base last year. Luis Pena, who is with the Milwaukee Brewers organization, he's just listed as an infielder. He can kind of move all over the place. He's played second, third, and short in his career. Not a ton of games this season. He had an issue earlier this year, a medical emergency that thankfully he was okay from. But just 27 games played with High A Wisconsin. But the numbers are pretty good there. An OPS over 750. A guy who is, able to get on base. He's walked 16 times in 27 games against 23 strikeouts. He can sort of do a little bit of everything. He's also stolen 17 bags out of 20 attempts. So I'm going to go with him. And no, I'm not going to take Jesus Monday. I know
You can
that's
do it. You can
no,
do it. Just do it.
I'm going Eli Willits. I'm going to take Eli Willits. It's not
Okay.
like there's
All
some
right.
drop off of a huge proportion from Jesus to Eli. So I'm going to go Eli Willits. Last season's, of course, sort of. I don't want to say shock first overall pick, but a guy who the Nationals believe very much in, and obviously proved that with giving him the top overall selection in 2025. So far this season, he is rewarding that with Fredericksburg to start the year at the A ball ranks, 47 games, an OPS of 918. He's barely slowed down since moving up to High A Wilmington. He's combined to hit 12 home runs so far this season. He's been really, really good. So I'm going to take Eli Willits.
Yeah, Eli Willits is a great pick, and I will take Jesus Madej. Let's just get this out of the way right now. But one thing I will point out is I'm really interested to see how the National League on Sunday is going to make the shortstop position work.
Yeah.
Because Madej is on the team, and he should absolutely be in the starting lineup. And because he's the number 1 overall prospect, you kind of think he should absolutely play his natural position. But like Willits is probably a better defender there. And Madej has some experience. He moved around a bit the infield late last year. He hasn't done it this year. So, like, with the Brewers, okay, him moving around. Willits has also moved around just a little bit because the Nationals have so many low-level shortstops. So maybe they'd be more okay with him playing second base. I don't know. It's a fascinating decision that's going to have to be made. That's what makes this game so great, is that there are too many good players on the field at once. But to Jesus Madej, 19 years old at Double A this year, has climbed to the top spot almost just because we really liked him coming into the year. Guys above him have graduated, Connor Griffin, for example. But somebody I still believe as a switch hitter can have a plus hit tool, can have a plus run tool, can have plus power. The big question for me right now is he going to elevate enough? Because he's hitting the ball on the ground too much. But even so, he's holding his own at 19 years old at Double A, 274, 345, 431 slash line in 74 games, 8 homers to this point, 24 steals. He's maybe the twitchiest player in minor league baseball right now, and that's why we have him at number one overall. You bet on athletes, like the amount of things he can do. You think, okay, he's going to learn to elevate more as it comes. That's just like maybe the last puzzle piece to put together for him. And once it does, he's going to go gangbusters. And as if the Milwaukee Brewers need more help this year or next year or at any time, Manet's going to be that guy. We just saw them call up Luis Lara this week and him perform pretty quickly and show off everything he'd shown off in the minors. So that's how they keep the talent moving in Milwaukee. And Madej has as high a ceiling as anybody they've developed. He's right there with Jackson Chourio, maybe even better than Jackson Chourio, because he's going to be somebody who can stick on the dirt and I think have a little bit more defensive value than Chourio has to this point. But all right, so Jesus Madej is my shortstop. And then my first outfielder, I will take, I'm going to go back to the Josue de Paula. Not just because I think he would be my pick to win MVP again this year, but because he is absolutely destroying the ball at Double A Tulsa this year. He's really fun to watch hit. He looks really loose, almost like he's like angling the bat behind him, just letting it sit there before he snaps in. He's already got 15 homers, which is a new career high for him in only 78 games. More walks than strikeouts, 53 walks against 49 strikeouts, 25 steals on top of that. A lot of people don't expect him to be a big speed guy by any means, and he's probably going to end up in a corner. He's already ended up in a corner because Tulsa is so loaded with outfielders. If he was a center fielder, he would be the number one prospect in baseball. I feel pretty comfortable in saying that, even though he is 2 years older, he's 21 compared to Madej and DeVries, who are 2 years younger. But de Paula checks every box offensively. And the fact that he already has success in this event, he's already been there. He's not going to be too wide-eyed. I think he's a strong candidate to win MVP award again. So he's my first outfielder off the board.
Outfielders are always tough. I'm gonna go Mike Sirota. I think I'm gonna go Mike Sirota from the Dodgers. Obviously the Dodgers, like again, another team that really doesn't need a whole lot of help, but the Dodgers have a really good one on Mike Sirota. He was originally a 16th round pick of the Dodgers in 2021, but elected to go to college. He went to Northeastern University in Boston, a school you're familiar with, Sam, as a rival alumnus. And then he was taken by the Reds in the third round in 2024, but the Dodgers ended up bringing him into the fold anyway. And for this season, I mean, the numbers have been ridiculous. 75 games between high A and double A, a 1056 OPS. He's hitting 325 combined, reaching base almost half of his plate appearances. He's been outstanding so far. And I think I'm going to go just for name recognition. We got to have some fun guys on this squad. I think I'm going to go with Ike Irish of the Baltimore Orioles system, the 19th overall pick in 2025 out of Auburn. Ike Irish, good year so far this year as well, in his first taste of high A's with the Frederick Keys, who are an affiliated team again, beginning here in this 2026 season. But an 850 OPS in 70 games. Ike Irish. Ike Irish. I'm going with Ike. I like Ike. His name is Isaac. Isaac William Irish. I like Ike on this team.
Two things on your picks. One, Mike Sirota, as we sit here on Thursday, July 9th, is up to a 70-game on-base streak.
Not bad. 70 games,
It's
not bad.
you don't get more consistent with that than that.
Pretty good.
It started at high A Great Lakes. It has continued to double A Tulsa. It's really insane. Like every night, I'm just checking in. Mike Sirota, did he get a
Don't
hit
look like
today?
it's
Yep.
on base again.
Did he get a walk today? Yep. No. Did he get a triple? Yep. He's been a machine, an absolute machine. And credit to the Dodgers for going out and acquiring him. I was on a Reds morning show this week, and they were asking like, how much should we regret Mike Sirota and what he's doing in the Dodger system? And I said like part of that I believe is the fact that Dodgers got him so early. It was right after the trade was the following offseason.
Yeah,
So they
yeah.
got him
I don't
so
think he
early
ever
in his development
played
window.
in the Red system for more than no, not at all. He was drafted in 2024, did not debut with them, so he's only played games competitively as a professional ball player in the Dodgers organization.
Yeah. So I think that that helped. You know, the Dodgers were able to steer him towards their ways, and obviously it's worked exceptionally well in the outfield for them. With DePaula, with Zaire Hope, with Eduardo Quintero, with Chuck Davalin, like the list of outfielders in that organization is insane. My point on Ike Irish, you mentioned he went to Auburn. Notre Dame, how'd you drop the ball on this?
Yeah, really. Yeah. I mean, I get it. It's an SEC program, blah, blah, blah. But the guy's name is Ike Irish. He could have had Irish on the front and the back of his jersey. It's like when one of the Nola brothers was a baby cake for a minute, and then he had Nola.
I was just gonna say the same thing. It's just like Austin Nola. Nola on the front, Nola on the back. Yeah. So, anyways, all right. So my final two outfielders. First one I'll do is Theo Gillen of the Tampa Bay Rays. He is one of two Rays headed to the Futures game on Sunday. He's jumped to number 9 in our top 100. Coming into the year, was expected to be hit over power. Given what we saw last year at Single A Charleston, only slugged 387 last year at Charleston. This year moves up to high A Bowling Green and slugs 589. He hit 5 homers last year in 73 games. He hit 12 in 57 games with the hot rods. So the fact that the power is coming quicker than we expected is really special. He was somebody who was initially drafted as an infielder, but the Rays were pretty clear that they thought he was going to move to the outfield. He's handled that well. He's a plus runner. Again, just another guy who needs space for his athleticism. They like how he's taken to that. So if you're adding like above average power to a plus hit tool, to a plus run tool, to above average defense, that's really, really good. I mean, yeah, there are going to be questions about how the arm plays. So I'm not going to hang the 5 tool designation on him, but it's still a really, really exciting talent for the Rays, who I think last year kind of took a dip in terms of quality, but right now they're absolutely back on the upswing. And Theo Gillen is leading the charge, as will be whoever they take second overall on Saturday. So it's a good time to be a fan of the Rays system. And my other one is a guy who was in the news recently, Walker Jenkins. In the news for a good reason, as Walker Jenkins so often is. There was a fan at a St. Paul Saints game who was out there for the anthem and looked like he was suffering from, I don't know if it was heat stroke or something, but started to pass out. Walker Jenkins swooped the kid up and took him to the dugout essentially to get seen and taken care of. As people might remember, he has the nickname Captain America, was absolutely looking like Captain America. That was given to him by Michael Kadire when they were both in the Team USA system.
Yeah.
So this isn't like that was a Twins connection before Walker Jenkins went to the Twins. Now, Walker Jenkins has been a tough one to evaluate over the years because he's gotten injured so many times. He's dealt with multiple injuries this year. He's only played 40 games this year. 36 of them have been with St. Paul. But I think on the day, if you get a healthy Walker Jenkins, and we should on Sunday, he has one of the best hit tools in baseball. The power is still going to be coming around for him. He can run. He has a strong arm. He can play a capable center field. He's capable of doing many, many things. He just needs to be on the field. And I'm grateful that he is healthy, not only just for his future and his present, but also the opportunity to see him and he gets that spotlight on Sunday. So Walker Jenkins rounds out my outfield group. Tyler, you have one more outfielder and then a DH.
For my outfielder, I'm going to go to the Cubs organization and get Josiah Hartshorn or Hartshorn. Sorry, Josiah. I don't know how to accurately say your last name, but Josiah Hartshorn was a sixth round pick of the Cubs last year, made his professional debut this year, and he has been outstanding. Two stops at the Class A level with Low A Myrtle Beach and High A South Bend. He's got a combined OPS of nearly 900. He's hit 15 total home runs, and just a guy who seems like he's really handling everything pretty well. Which, he's a high school pick. He was taken out of Orange Lutheran in California, a baseball powerhouse. Jumps into pro ball and does this immediately as a 19-year-old. Pretty impressive stuff from him. And then a designated hitter. Um, my last pick at the plate, designated hitter wise, is Alfredo Duno still on the board?
He is. He is.
Okay.
You can absolutely take Alfredo
I'm gonna go
Duno.
with Alfredo Duno, the Cincinnati Reds organization, the currently with the Dayton Dragons, and
Actually, with Double A Chattanooga.
oh, now up with Double A Chattanooga,
Moved on up
and
a bit.
a guy who again just has seemed really steady throughout the entirety of his professional career. This is his fourth pro season, but this year so far, couple of stops in that Reds organization. And, he's been doing exactly what he's been doing throughout the entirety of his career so far. He was 65 games with Dayton to start the year, an OPS of 902. He's been in Chattanooga for a little over a week. The OPS is at 931. He just kind of hits everywhere. I mean, everything that he's done really since his youngest full season campaign when he was with Daytona in the Florida State League. Even that year wasn't really a struggle. He only played 32 games. The numbers weren't quite as gaudy, but then he went back there last year at 948 OPS in 113 games. So he's really making that climb. Alfredo Duno, he's going to round it out for me.
That's good. That's good. He is a perfect DH pick. You want a slugger for the middle of your lineup.
Yeah.
Alfredo Duno, just the man is large and in charge, and there's a certain gravity that comes around him every time he steps to the plate. Even so at Double A now, I'm sure, just because everybody's heard about him. Now they're getting to witness him up close. So Alfredo Duno, good pick for DH. There are many ways I could go here, and they're just because this futures game is so loaded, I feel bad that some guys aren't going to be picked. But we have to take Leo DeVries somewhere. Leo DeVries has not been selected on our board
Yeah.
yet.
Wow.
So I am going to take him as my DH, with apologies that he will not be playing the field on my team. Maybe I'll put him in at second base. We'll move Roldy. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
It was like one of those things where we must have just assumed, like, well, Leo DeVries is off the board already. And I was like,
I,
wait, he's not.
he's not. Yeah, maybe the way I make this work in reality is that I would put Roldy Brito in the outfield. Josue De Paula becomes my DH, and Leo DeVries moves to second base. Anyway, Leo DeVries, the number 2 overall prospect in baseball, part of one of the wackiest trade deadlines I can remember. Not only because it's the most recent trade deadline I can remember, but last year going from the San Diego Padres to the A's organization in the Mason Miller deal. 19 years old at Double A, just like Jesus Madej. Again, holding his own, a 280 batting average, 371 on base, 426 slug. 10 homers, 12 doubles in that span. He's stolen 30 bases, which is a new career high for him. The fact that he has been that aggressive on the base paths. I remember him signing with the Padres, and people like to bring up that he had a basketball background and kind of acted like a point guard in baseball. I think, we're getting to the point now where his body's maturing a little bit more. He's going to add a little bit more power, maybe lose a little bit of that speed. But still, somebody who I think is truly capable of being a plus hitter, at least above average power, and can cover ground on the infield. Like, where does he end up? Because the A's have a decent shortstop now, and they're going to have to sort through all that. I don't know, but I think he would be a capable defender, kind of like what we're seeing with J.J. Weatherholt, right? Like, J.J. Weatherholt was probably going to be an average defender at shortstop. The Cardinals moved him to second base. He's the best defensive second baseman in the major leagues this year. I think Leo DeVries could be that type if he has to move off shortstop eventually. But in this scenario, technically he's my DH. So I'm happy to add the number 2 overall prospect here with my last hitting pick. And then we're going to take one starting pitcher each. This is kind of like the MLB draft, what we were saying before. I think there are 3 good options here, and you can't really go wrong, but you do have to pick somebody. I'm going to go upside. I'm going to go upside and take Seth Hernandez. of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Seth Hernandez, our number 6 overall prospect in the game. We actually had him as high as number 3 during an in-season update. We dropped him down a few pegs just because other guys had been succeeding and his command hadn't been quite as good at high A as it was in single A. But he absolutely destroyed the Florida State League, a 0.96 ERA, 50 strikeouts in 28 innings there. Absolutely had to get to Greensboro. In 10 starts at the higher level in the South Atlantic League, 3.73 ERA, 61 strikeouts in 41 innings, though he has walked 23 in that span. We got to see him in a showcase event in the spring when he got up to 102 miles an hour against Max Clark. He made Max Clark step out of the box and say a thing I will not say on this podcast because we like to think it's a family show. But he wowed everybody and was just like, okay, he's really bringing it. Like this fastball is absolutely going to work. And there were some questions about like what was going to be the quality of the breaking stuff. That's gotten swing and miss too. His changeup has been advanced going back to his high school days at Corona High School in California. So, you know, it's been a really special year for Seth Hernandez. He just turned 20 on June 28th. There's still lots of, you know, growth in terms of pitch shapes and finding what's going to work for him as he goes higher up. And I would like, again, to see him tighten up that command a little bit more against more advanced batters. But I think given where he is now, like where he would be as a college freshman, he's so advanced. We could certainly see him in the majors within 2 years. And maybe by this time next year, we're talking about him making a second half debut. So I want Seth Hernandez, you know, again, like in a short environment, it's the Futures game. He's probably only pitching it an inning at most, but flashing that triple digit heat and then dropping in one of his changeups, he's going to make a lot of guys look silly on Sunday.
I'm going one spot ahead of you in the top 100. I'm going to take Cade Anderson of the Seattle Mariners, the lefty out of LSU, a national champ, College World Series Player of the Year. He was last year's 3rd overall pick. This year, I don't know what else Cade Anderson has to prove at Double A Arkansas, and it would not be surprising if this is the last stop before he heads to Triple A Tacoma. But so far this season, 14 starts, 72 and 2/3 innings pitched. He has struck out 108 batters, has a whip of 0.69 and an ERA of 1.36. And he's only walked 10 guys. Like Cade Anderson he's done everything so far this season at Double A. He's, you know, one of a wealth of arms that the Mariners either have coming up or have recently graduated. Ryan Sloan is the other one in the system right now who really kind of gives you a lot to dream on. But I'm going to go with Cade Anderson of the Seattle Mariners organization, Sam.
Yeah, it's interesting the yin and yang of Seth Hernandez versus Cade Anderson because I think Seth Hernandez has some of the best stuff in the minors. I think Cade Anderson pretty clearly has the best command in all of minor league baseball. And that leads to control. Control and command are two different things. But he is going to find your weakness. He's going to attack it, and he is going to set you down very quickly. He's done that over and over and over this year with the Arkansas Travelers. Like you said, Tyler, like it's amazing that he's not a AAA yet. The only reason for that, I think, is organizational philosophy with the Mariners. They don't like sending their top pitchers to Tacoma. Look back at Logan Gilbert, Ryan Wu. Like they just don't like sending those guys to get feasted on in the Pacific Coast League and get down or, you know, ding their confidence because they gave up, you know, a homer in the winds of Albuquerque or in the altitude of El Paso. So I think that's one reason why he's down. The other reason why is he probably would be in the majors by now, but the Mariners pitching staff is so loaded that they're talking about piggybacking their starters.
Right.
And none of those guys have been hurt. Like the opportunities are just not there in the major leagues for him. He was my pick at the beginning of the year for like this year's Trey Savage, a guy who like cooks all year in the minor leagues and gets called up and helps out in the postseason. Now the Mariners have to make the postseason. It is not a good year for the American League. I think they absolutely have the rotation to do that. They're going to have to make some other moves to address some other things to get there. But Cade Anderson, like you said, most outstanding player in the College World Series last year, dominated the SEC, is dominating Double A. I fully expect him to dominate on Sunday for the American League, pitching early in that game. And, you know, his floor is exceptionally high. Like if he's anything less than the number 3 starter, I'm going to be very, very surprised at the major league level. And there's ace potential there just because, again, he hits his spots exactly where he wants it to go and attacks your weaknesses and finds them easily. And he's got enough pitches. His fastball shape's not incredible, but the fact that he can pinpoint it so well is good. He's got a couple breaking balls. The changeup's absolutely exceptional. He ticks so many boxes.
So there we have it. Our two loaded squads for the 2026 Futures game, which is coming up on Sunday from Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia. And again, that is noon Eastern time, and you can catch your friend and ours, Sam Dykstra, on the call, along with Melanie Newman and Yonder Alonso. Sandy Charles will be there on sidelines as well. So tune in for that. And good stuff, Sam. Coming up, Benjamin Hill's going to swing by for this week's edition of Ben's Biz Banter after the break.
This episode is brought to you by Google Health. Stop chasing someone else's definition of health. What matters is what's healthy for you. Google Health offers a new kind of coach built with Gemini for effortless tracking, sleep insights, and holistic coaching tailored to you. Visit googlestore.com to learn more and start a new relationship with your health. Requires Google account, Google Health app, internet, and Google Health Premium subscription. Features subject to change. Availability and results vary. Not intended for medical purposes. Works independently of Gemini apps. Check responses for accuracy.
Well, ordinarily, we reserve segment number one for Ben's Biz Banter, presented by Circle K, the official convenience store of minor league baseball. But this week, we're rolling in segment number two. It's a Ben sandwich. Ben, what's going on? How are you?
Doing all right. Exhausted. There's a lot going on in life for all of us. I'm not nothing special, but I am special because all of us are special.
I like it. And that'll do it for this week's episode.
Thanks, Ben, for his insights on the human condition.
The month of July, we're coming up on the midway point of the month of July somehow, but we got some great minor league promos that we haven't talked about as of yet. Some stuff that's already in the bank, including a thing that we have talked about multiple times on the podcast, which was the Somerset Semi-Quincentennials, as they took the field to celebrate 250 years of American history, United States history, Declaration of Independence onward history. But there's a whole bunch of other stuff going on in the month of July. What do we got?
Well, not just the month of July. Let's keep it more in the immediate present. We talked a little bit about my most recent promo preview column, the July promo preview. But how about this weekend? How about Saturday? July 10th is Saturday, correct?
Friday is
July 10th. That's why
you
appended a question mark, because there's a lot going on. Friday, I remember talking about this last year. In fact, we had Joe Vasile from the Hudson Valley Renegades on to talk about this last year, but they're doing it again. Hudson Valley Renegades on July 10th are staging an encore performance of Renegades the Musical. And that is an original theatrical production. And every scene is like a roughly 90-second scene staged in between innings throughout the course of a ball game. And the plot of the musical, takes place in a ballpark. It's a love story between some game day employees, I believe. But I just love that kind of thing. A team just here in the year 2026 saying, there's still things that have just literally never been done before, and we're going to do it. And well, they have done it before. They did it last year, but I would love to see more teams do this kind of thing. Put on, tap into your local theatrical, local arts community and put on an original production at the ballpark. So that is on Friday, July 10th. And then on July 11th, we're staying in New York State. We're staying in the greater New York City region. We're actually entering New York City proper, the Brooklyn Cyclones, on Saturday, July 11th. They are known for Seinfeld Night, of course. This year's iteration is August 1st. But they are saluting another classic sitcom on July 11th on Saturday. It's King of Queens Night with a Doug Heffernan bobblehead. I believe Doug Heffernan was the Kevin James character on the show. In reading about this promo and writing about it, realized that I don't think I'd ever seen an episode of the King of Queens. I know it was a very popular sitcom for a long time, but all I know is that Kevin James is the titular character. He's like a UPS driver or something like that, a mailman.
Also, his father-in-law is played by Jerry Stiller.
Oh, there you go.
Which makes it a connection to Seinfeld.
And he's like the exact same character, right? As Frank Costanza. He's just like a irascible old guy who's always yelling at his loser son.
But in this case, son-in-law.
Son-in-law.
You know what I mean?
Oh, okay. He's the mom, or he's the father of the mom in the show. Do they have kids in the show? I don't know anything about that.
I don't think they do.
Wow.
He was on
subverting the
She was on Saved by the Bell, the college. No, she was on Saved by the Bell, the weird like summer where they went to Hawaii or they worked at a hotel or something, whatever that woman's name is, or that actress who I can't. Anyway, none of that has anything to do with anything. Well, it does have to do with King of Queens, I guess, which brings it all full circle.
Yeah, exactly. And so this Doug Heffernan bobblehead they're giving away, we're not going to be qualified to talk about it, but it is an homage to a famous scene on the show with Doug his ill-fated attempt to scale the outfield wall at Shea Stadium. I guess that was a plot line of an episode. So this bobblehead shows him trying to scramble up the Shea Stadium wall. And the Cyclones did not put this anywhere specifically in their own promotion of this promo, King of Queens Night on July 11th. But I think it's a nice tie-in. You may recall, if you are that kind of minor league baseball fan, that for one season prior to the Cyclones' current ballpark, Maimonides, Maimonides,
Maimonides.
Maimonides Park. Before that ballpark opened in 2001, the team spent one stopgap season in Queens, and they were called the Queens Kings. I believe they played at St. John's Ballpark.
Oh, okay.
So the fact that the Cyclones actually started as the King Queens and now they're having King of Queens night, just a nice little tie-in. I would like to mention. I'm not sure if the team is doing anything specific with that. And since we're talking about sitcoms, I just want to say rest in peace, Louise Lasser. She was Mary Hartman in the show Mary Hartman, Mary Hartman, a kind of satirical, subversive, syndicated soap opera that was a cultural phenomenon in 1976, and it's one of my favorite shows of all time. And her performance of that is just awe-inspiring. I am sad to see that Louise died, and if anyone wants to talk to me about Mary Hartman, Mary Hartman, send me an email, benjamin.hill@mlb.com. Rest in peace, Louise Lasser, a true artist, and I will always remember your performance as Mary Hartman, Mary Hartman. Glad I snuck that out.
Well, we're kind of staying TV specific here because John Oliver is back in the news, and not just because he's been doing soap operas. Social media tells me now. I don't watch, I'm not up on my soaps with General Hospital and the like anymore, but apparently he's been doing guest spots on multiple soap operas. But that's neither here nor there. The Erie Moon Mammoths are doing a John Oliver, or I guess the Erie Seawolves playing as the Erie Moon Mammoths are doing a bobblehead of John Oliver to celebrate everything that happened last year. The Moon Mammoths are back for this, but Ben, anything stand out to you most about this?
Not really. I mean, it just seems kind of inevitable, doesn't it? I
Right.
mean, that we talked about the Moon Mammoths a lot last year. John Oliver and his team created that Erie alternate identity. It was a huge smash. It broke through the usual boundaries of minor league baseball promotions and became a more of a national story. And so, of course, one, the Seawolves have brought the Moon Mammoths back for this year, and two, that they are going to be playing as the Moon Mammoths and giving away the John Oliver bobblehead. I have not seen an image of it. I have not been able to find one yet, but it's got to exist soon because they're giving one away on Saturday in Erie.
Just maintain the surprise. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. But I imagine it will be him in a Moon Mammoths jersey, but maybe they've taken it in some obscure or unexpected or even avant-garde direction. You just never know.
What I would like it to be is him in the Moon Mammoths mascot, and you like remove the head to reveal that it's John Oliver.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Try to get a little creative in the space. That's just me pitching. Maybe it's an idea for next year's bobblehead. Who knows? But until we see it, the imagination can run wild.
Yeah. Or maybe it's an idea for this year's. They're going to hear this and be like, we got one day to make this happen. Go.
Got to manufacture a whole bunch of like helmets of the
Yeah.
mammoth head that go on top of the John Oliver bobblehead. We got some other fun stuff coming up in this weekend and later on in July. Christmas Eve in July with the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. I feel like most teams do Christmas in July or Christmas in June, but this is the first Christmas Eve that I've heard of. But the Jumbo Shrimp are promising a quote cozy unquote night at the ballpark, and that really is. I feel like Christmas Eve is one of the coziest nights of the year. I'm not sure what the level of coziness is in Jacksonville, Florida, on July 11th, weather-wise, but I don't know, maybe it'll be cozy.
Yeah, curious to see what they do to make it cozy. And yes, I've never seen a team do Christmas Eve in July as opposed to Christmas. But yeah, Christmas, you think maybe a little more bombastic with the Christmas carols and the excitement of opening presents. And there's Santa. Christmas Eve, maybe you're just more about putting on your pajamas and curling up in front of a warm fire. And yeah, nothing says doing that like Jacksonville in July. So we'll see how they pull that off. And yeah, they're giving away a jumbo shrimp nutcracker. And those are just the kind of random items that, on one hand, I got too much random stuff on my shelves already, but those are the kind of souvenirs I actually like to acquire, like just really random ones. A jumbo shrimp nutcracker. And according to my records, I was able to find two other nutcrackers being given away this month in minor league baseball, team branded nutcrackers as part of Christmas in July um, promotions. We got the El Paso Chihuahuas on July 17th and the Lansing Lug Nuts. I mean, they got nuts in their names. They're giving away
Lug nutcrackers.
a lug nut nutcracker. I believe it features what's his name? Big L, Luggy, their mascot in nutcracker form. So, that'd be a cool like hipster minor league baseball collection. Like I collect team themed nutcrackers. Get a few each year around July. Really build that collection up. Someone start that collection, and I will cover your efforts and we will have you on this podcast. As soon as you get half a dozen nutcrackers, we'll make you famous.
I just think back to the days of the trade show at the winter meetings and just seeing vendors all over the place and there being a vendor for the nutcrackers. And that's why we've three is a trend.
Yeah.
The fact that we have three teams doing this is how it starts. And that they hand painted I can't confirm this, but that there was an attention to detail here. It's going to start with three. Next July, we're going to be talking about Nutcracker Month across minor league baseball. This is how the wildfire begins.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, a conflagration starts with a single spark. So uh, the fire grows. The Nutcracker fire in minor league baseball grows. Of course, when I think Nutcrackers in the month of July, at least living in New York City, you think about the like unlicensed alcohol vendors. Is it a New York City thing?
I was going to bring it up, and then I'm like, I don't know if everybody's going to know about that. Tyler, do you know what a Nutcracker is?
No.
There are guys, well, men and women, all around New York City, roaming up and down the beaches in the summer, or they might be a Prospect Park or outside big events like outdoor concerts, nutcrackers, and it's like a homemade alcoholic cocktail.
Yeah.
And you can just buy an on-the-go nutcracker from a unlicensed vendor.
From a random person on the street. Seems safe and hygienic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't ask too many questions about what's in there.
Yeah.
And I can't say I've ever actually had one for my safety. But I know people who enjoy Nutcracker on the beach every summer.
I've had a few in my day, not many, but I've tried them. They've been fine. They've never tasted overly strong to me, like, whoa, this thing's gonna kill me. Um, at least I just feel good. I feel like it's a good time. You're just in a good place if you're somewhere in
And
the
they're
city.
usually colorful, like they're
Yeah.
very
So
summery.
even if you're not partaking, just the idea that you're in a place where there's like nutcracker vendors coming through, this is summer in New York City. Yeah. But we digress.
But none of those. This is a true put the peanut in, pull the lever, crack the nut.
Yeah. The
Enjoy
Yeah.
or whatever nut you choose.
People normally do with the holidays. What is that? Walnuts?
Yeah, that's like I usually do buy like one bag of nuts every holiday season and, roast them, in the shell, just in the oven. And then I have a traditional, or just a nutcracker that's just, like metal prongs and
Yeah.
squeeze.
Yeah.
Because the peanut, you could do a peanut, but peanut you can do with your hands. Like,
Yeah.
but a walnut, an almond,
Is it chestnut and
a
nut?
chestnut, yeah, a
That's
macadamia.
a holiday.
You need a tool to get to the sweet flesh of those.
Sweet, sweet innards. Well, good stuff. You can read more, of course, at MILB and MLB.com of what's coming up throughout the rest of the month. If you are going to be in the area of Springfield, Missouri, you can try to get free bratwurst because they're going to be giving away 1 million calories of free bratwurst. So the Springfield Cardinals coming up on July 30th. So you can read all that and more at MLB.com. All right, Ben, we're going to pivot to the Pacific Coast League for our conversation this week, and an emotional one, a really good one for a proud member of the Reno Aces family.
Yeah, this is an emotional one, and one I was really glad and grateful to be able to speak to David Calvert, who is the Reno Aces team photographer going back to their inaugural season in 2009. He was diagnosed with leukemia, more or less out of the blue just in terms of not much lead time between him getting sick and getting diagnosed with leukemia late last July. So it's just a little less than a year. So his life has been turned upside down. He was at the ballpark on June for the team's cancer survivorship night, and that was a really emotional night at the ballpark. And I really appreciate him, taking the time to speak with me and just being so open and honest about what this last year has been like for him. I have a corresponding story that is coming out in my newsletter this week and on the site, so you can check that out as well. But really grateful to be able to tell a story, and it was great to be able to speak with him as well. So this is David Calvert, the Reno Aces team photographer, talking about his cancer journey.
Here's your report.
Oh, thanks, Jane. I wish I could hire someone just like you.
Try LinkedIn Hiring Pro. It's more than a job board. It's like the recruiter you always wished you had. Hiring Pro uses real-time insights to match your role to LinkedIn's unique network of professionals and delivers a short list of best fit candidates. You'll spend less time sorting applicants and more time talking to the right people.
Let's do it. You're irreplaceable, Jane, but another you would be great.
Hire right the first time. Post your job for free on LinkedIn today at linkedin.com/quality.
David Calvert has been taking photos for the Aces since day one, since that team started in 2009. Big part of the franchise. And then the Aces were there for you, and the baseball community were there for you, because in July 2025, you were diagnosed with, I might be mispronouncing it here, acute lymphoblastic leukemia, an aggressive blood cancer.
That's the one.
That's the one, yeah. And we're talking a year later, so you've had quite a year, to say the least. But before we get into all that, tell us about working for the Aces and how you came on board with them in 2009 and then came to be, one of the most day in, day out stalwarts of the franchise.
So I'd always wanted to be a team photographer. I grew up in the Bay Area watching Michael Zagaris for the Oakland A's. And I just thought, what a cool job that would be. So when I found out that minor league baseball was coming to Reno, I did everything I could to get myself in front of the right people to see that I was hired and was going to make it as the team photographer. I did a New York Times assignment for their business section. It was something on development with Stuart Katzoff, one of the original owners of the team. And so that was a pretty good foot in the door. So that when they were like, hey, which photographer are we using? It was like, who's the guy who photographed me for the New York Times? Which, in addition to being in the Times, was also like his mom's newspaper of choice. So like I had Stuart's mom in my corner, which was pretty cool. I met with Brett McGinnis, one of our early marketing executives, early on in the process. And then TJ Lasita, who's actually still in the game, works with the Padres now. And they eventually brought me on board. And I've been photographing from construction through opening day in 2009 up until opening day of this year. So I kept my streak alive, despite the fact that I'm still recovering from leukemia and my mobility is a little bit challenged, I'll say. It was important to me to be out there on opening day of this year and to make some photos. Bugsy, Brett Butler, our first manager, was back to throw out the first pitch, and I wanted to make a picture of Bugsy, and I wanted to try and get some of the new guys, Tommy Troy and Waldschmidt and Groover, and just the guys that are the next wave. And I managed to get a few, made some pictures. The last time I was back to the ballpark was without my camera, actually. They asked me to throw out the first pitch on Cancer Survivorship Night, which I hope we'll get to talk about a little bit more as this goes on. But I've been to the ballpark twice this year. I might be going tonight for a soccer watch party if everything works out all right. But yeah, I started with the club in 2009, and I've been the team photographer ever since. Photograph about half the games a season. You're talking thousands and thousands of pictures. And I've spent the last 6 months or so reorganizing my archive and looking at those pictures and having just a chance to reminisce over some of those fond memories. And it's really encouraged me to get back out there and to get moving again. So I'm ready for the next challenge. I'm ready to be back out photographing baseball again for sure.
Yeah, I mean, being there with the Aces from day one, um, you talked about how you got your foot in the door and started doing it. What kept you coming back? What was it about, the ballpark, the people, the sense of community, that made it something that you not only wanted to be involved with, but wanted to be so intimately involved with?
Yeah, I mean, like obviously I love baseball. I grew up playing it and it was always a dream. But as that circle gets smaller from little league to Babe Ruth to high school and eventually the pros, I was left out over here somewhere. So this was my way to be around the game as much as possible. And I don't like to buy tickets to things. I have better access as a photographer. So it's, my opportunity to watch the game from the dugout, to be there and watch the players and to document what's going on and what's important to them and the community, our fans, all of those things. That's what gets me excited as a photographer. And it just so happens that baseball is one of my favorite subjects to photograph. So being there was, I mean, there was never a problem getting out to the ballpark. I'm not someone who leaves early either. I'm kind of a completionist. If I'm going to show up for the game, I want to be there for the whole thing. So it's never been a problem to be around baseball. Baseball is beautiful.
Less than a year ago, in late July 2025, you were diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia. And I can't imagine what it's like to hear that diagnosis. Um, it sounds like maybe a trite question, like what was that like for you? I mean, I know it had to be so many things, but you're going through a normal
Yeah.
season and get hit with that. Where do you go from there? How did you first adjust to that?
Well, one thing I think is interesting, the last thing I photographed at the Aces that season was a Star Wars night. So, thinking about the quirks of minor league baseball, like we were talking about before we got on the air, um, that's one of the big nights of the year. And I'm glad I got to go off on a high note if I was going to have to miss the rest of the year, which I did. So I was let me take you back to my diagnosis. I was in Sacramento the night of the 30th, photographing a story about the Las Vegas A's. I feel now used to saying it. Um, and I wasn't feeling well. I went back to my hotel room a little bit early. I got sick that night. Ended up throwing up blood, which is a scary feeling, man. Like, don't ignore the symptoms. If there's something going wrong with your body, you got to get that stuff checked out. Because I'm 40 and I didn't expect to have cancer. I expected to have an ulcer because I don't eat well or something like that. Well, anyway, I drive back to Reno so that I'm near my partner, and we go to the hospital that night. And within hours, I've been diagnosed with leukemia. My world is turned upside down. My white blood cell count is through the roof, and I've been given a diagnosis that has interesting survivability numbers. There's a good chance of making it through the first year. It gets harder after that. And right now, I'm happy to say my numbers are looking great. My recovery is going well. But at the time, I was thinking about death, and that was hard. And thinking about the things that I wouldn't be able to do again, like photograph a baseball game, or was I going to see my dogs again? So I was checked into the hospital, and I didn't really leave the hospital from the beginning of August until December, going through different therapies and chemo treatments. And the point of leukemia is they give you these treatments and this chemo. The idea is to bring you all the way down and then bring you back up. So they're trying to actively kill you while they're trying to save your life. And that's a real tough thing to wrap your head around, man. So yeah, that's how I found out about my diagnosis. Was in the hospital. Last picture I took was of Steve Fisher, owner of the Oakland A's, or excuse me, Las Vegas A's. And then it was just about, like I don't really remember much of August or September because of my treatment, but I made it through it. I had great nurses. I have a great doctor, a great oncologist, and I got back home, and now I'm in the recovery portion of it where I still get treatment. I still go to get my blood work checked out, and I go to therapy a couple of times a week. But it's hard, man. This is the hardest thing I've ever done. Hardest thing I'll ever do is survive.
Yeah, I mean, just hearing you talk about it and hearing your voice, it's the sort of challenge that I quite honestly has never come close to going through. So,
I
um,
didn't know if I had it in me at first. And there's days when I wake up now where I still don't know if I have it in me, but I do. I'm making it. I
and
will.
yeah, you will. And absolutely through this, the baseball community has been there for you. And I know the Aces put together some online auction and got people to donate and teams to donate from all over baseball. They raise money that way. You have a GoFundMe up that is, when I checked it today, had $175,000 in contributions, including a lot of people from the Aces. Um,
I mean, players from the Aces made donations. The organization, the Diamondbacks, my colleagues. It's amazing to see the support on paper like that from people that you've got relationships with, but you don't think of them as the ones that are there to save your life. And that's really what they're doing for me is they've helped save my life.
yeah, I mean, it's such a inspiring thing to see just how many people have come together, and that has to make you feel maybe you knew this abstractly before, but how much your work has meant to the Aces, to the players, to the coaches, to the managers, to the fans, to then have everyone come together for you in this way. It must be really inspiring and overwhelming. Um,
Absolutely. Baseball is a special community. We're tight knit. Um, when I do get out to the ballpark, it's great to see the people and, grab lunch or something with some of the marketing guys that I used to work with every week. Reno itself is a tight knit community, and our baseball fans are that way. So that's part of the reason why I think they all rallied to get behind me. Baseball has also just been a great comfort because while I was going through these treatments and while I continue to recover, it's on basically every day. That's the beauty of the ball game. There's baseball on Tuesdays. I can turn on the TV and I can watch a ball game, and that just I don't know, grounds me. It centers me. Um, I also got some pretty cool support last year during the World Series. Ken Rosenthal from The Athletic, during the Stand Up to Cancer moment, um, I'm watching the game and I see my name on his little placard, and he's got, I stand up for cancer for David Calvert. And to see that go out, not just like in Reno, but like that was the World Series. I was on TV for the World Series. I got phone calls and text messages from friends all over the place that I haven't heard from since high school, even. Um, Baseball is a special community.
well, that was amazing. You got that shout out from Ken Rosenthal and just the support of the baseball community in general, as you talked about. Um, and then you mentioned this earlier that you did not miss an opening day. What was it like to be back on the field or back at the ballpark for 2026, opening day when so much had changed since, in the last year of your life?
Yeah, that was definitely an emotional experience. The biggest challenge was just trying to make the pictures that I wanted to because I can't be where I normally would be in the dugout or, it's hard to move the wheelchair around. So I had to plan out my shots in a way that, I'm always thinking ahead, like, what's the situation? Where's the photo going to be? Where's the light? What's the background look like? But I really had to do that for this. And um, it was frustrating to miss photos, but it was more important that I was there to make a photo than to not. So I'm glad I was able to do it. I'm proud of some of the pictures that I made, and I can't wait to get out there when I'm back around moving around and out of a wheelchair.
Yeah, and then in June the Aces staged a cancer survivorship night, and you were, one of the people honored there throughout a first pitch. If you can talk
Yeah,
about that experience. Yeah.
speaking of emotional, that was I mean that's been one of the highlights of my life. Like it was definitely the high point of this whole recovery, but that was a big deal. I've never thrown out a first pitch. I've photographed a lot of them. I've never photographed a stand up to cancer, or I've never been honored during stand. I've never stood up to cancer during one of those moments, but I've always been one of the people taking the pictures of it. So having everything flipped like that was very weird. I had actually spent, all my therapy time leading up to it. We'd work in some catch so that I was getting used to and comfortable throwing from my wheelchair. Not an easy thing to do, but yeah, Chris Payne, our MC, told my story to the crowd. The crowd went wild. There was people chanting my name and clapping and pointing at me, and I got out there. I was with my oncologist, and um, I just let it rip. I threw it to Tommy Henry, who's been a guy I photographed for a few years now. So I had a special connection there, which was pretty cool. Um, and then, the applause from the crowd. We talk about that support from the baseball community from Reno. That was just a small representation of it, and it was incredible. Um, I am, I will admit, I bounced it. Better to bounce it than to let one fly. It wasn't the worst first pitch at Ace's Ballpark, but it was up there. Greater Nevada Field seemed better. But as far as the emotions going, I can't think of a time when it was higher and people were more into it.
Yeah, well, as a team photographer for so long, I'm sure you saw many worse pitches than the one you
I
threw
have
that night.
I have photographed them. I definitely have a candidate for worst ever. But he doesn't live in the community anymore. He was a former football coach here, and he's moved on to other things apparently. So, um, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned earlier you made, a lot of strides, in your recovery from this, but it's a long road ahead. Are you contextualizing, portions of the recovery, kind of through the baseball season and like I've got to make this opening day or I got to be there to throw the first pitch? Are there other, baseball benchmarks you have going ahead?
Those were the two big ones that I wanted to be a part of, but I want to make sure that I get out there at least once or twice more just to photograph a baseball game. No pressure, not the occasion of opening day or, them honoring me on the field, but a Tuesday when there's less people at the ballpark, when you can move around more, when you can look for different things. It's not always about the big Friday night fireworks or the Saturday theme nights. The thing that's special about baseball is that they play every day, basically every day. And I want to be out there for a Tuesday.
Yeah, typical Tuesday in minor league baseball and just enjoy
Yeah.
it. I know. Well, you've got so many people in baseball rooting for you all over the country. And who'll be following your journey as it continues. Is there anything you want to mention or promote, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm updating on my Instagram and my Twitter and other social media and stuff like that. So if you want to follow me in those places, I'm Calvert Photo. Um, we also put updates on the GoFundMe page. So if you want to read more about what's happening, you can see what's going on there. I mean, next, I'm just excited to watch the All-Star break. And what the rest of the summer has to hold.
Yeah, well, wishing you the best as you do this. I know it's all the cliches, one day at a time, things like that. But
Those things are real, though. You got to have a positive attitude through this process. And if you don't, it gets real dark real fast. So if
yeah,
there's anyone else who's going through this who has just recently received a diagnosis, keep your head up as best you can. There's hope.
This episode is brought to you by Accenture. When your advertising operations fall out of sync, everything else follows. Spotify and Accenture are working together to reinvent the rhythm of ad sales, using automation, analytics, and smarter workflows to simplify campaign delivery and access better data across the business. The result? Less time spent on operations, more time connecting brands with the moments and fandoms that matter most. Learn more at accenture.com/Spotify.
Wrapping up this week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast. And before we get out of here and we say goodbye for this week's edition, we're not going to play Name That Dude this week. Instead, we're just going to tell you about a dude who is in the news. Justin Verlander has announced that he will retire at the end of the 2026 season. He's been named to the All-Star game as one of the legacy pick. That just was kind of invented last year for Clayton Kershaw, right? But now it's going to be a thing.
That's what it seems like.
Okay.
Yeah,
JV,
the
I mean,
legends pick.
nobody is more deserving than of a thing like that than Justin Verlander, and a guy who has been in the major league since 2005. He was an MVP, three-time Cy Young Award winner. He won the Rookie of the Year in that '05 season, a pitching triple crown, or sorry, in the 2006 season was when he won Rookie of the Year. Two-time World Series champ, nine-time All-Star, an American League Championship Series MVP. A two-time ERA champion, and a guy who over 21 years in the game has come, within a hair's breadth of being the greatest pitcher of his generation, if you don't already consider him that. You can make that argument for a lot of people over the last 20 years or so. Justin Verlander is in a very, very short list of those guys. And yeah, big congratulations to Justin Verlander. We're going to go through a little bit of his minor league time. Not a ton of minor league time for Justin Verlander. Before, I don't know if either of you guys have looked at his baseball reference page, but do either of you dudes know offhand Justin Verlander's alma mater? I know
I do
that
know it's Old Dominion.
it's Old Dominion. My roommate, my first year in the minor leagues, was also an Old Dominion guy, and he told us that all the time. Justin Verlander went to ODU. I'm like, yeah, we know. Justin Verlander, Sam Dykstra, the first round, second overall selection in 2004. He made his pro debut. The following year, he pitched 20 combined games between High A Lakeland and Double A Erie, and he did not pitch again in the minor leagues until a rehab appearance in 2015 with Toledo. So he made 20 minor league appearances and then was like, nah, I'm good. I'm not going to have to use this ever again.
Yeah, I mean it's awfully reminiscent, right, of Cade Anderson and what Cade Anderson is doing this year. Now, Cade Anderson hasn't even started at High A. And I think there's obviously a pretty good argument that Justin Verlander probably shouldn't have gone to High A in 2005. He had a 1.67 ERA, 104 strikeouts, only 19 walks in 86 innings with Lakeland that year before moving up to Erie, having 7 starts there, and his ERA was 0.28.
Yeah, one run in 32 and 2/3 innings pitched.
Ridiculous.
I mean, it's close to immaculate as you can get. And
Struck out 32 in those 32 and 2/3 and only walked 7. He only gave up 11 hits in 32 and 2/3 innings. Like, yeah, I think this guy's ready.
The other thing I want to underline here, Tyler, you mentioned he didn't see the minors again until 2015, which was technically his AAA debut. He did not see Toledo in 2005. I believe
right.
Toledo would have still been the Tigers.
It
AAA.
would have, yes.
Yeah. He skipped right from Erie to Detroit, got 2 starts with Detroit in 2005. But yeah, did not see the AAA level at all until a couple of rehab appearances with the Mud Hens in 2015.
Yeah, one of his starts in Toledo with the Mud Hens, a dinosaur throughout the first pitch, and there's pictures of Justin Verlander and a dinosaur on the mound. So
I think I remember that, actually.
Yeah, good minor league moment there, which is funny because the last time I went to Toledo 3 years ago to see the Mud Hens, that same dinosaur outfit was at the ballpark when I went as well. So Toledo loves their dinosaurs. It's like this company from like South Carolina. They're just hauling trailers all over the country, bringing their
Those are like
dinosaurs.
the very lifelike dinosaurs, right?
Yes, they're super lifelike, and some of them like set up on the concourse. They like move, kind of like animatronic, and some of them you can just get on and ride. I mean,
cool.
It's better for kids, but I was there alone, so I was just a solo man.
I would have done it. Somebody was like, "Here, you can get on top of this brontosaurus." Yeah, like I'm going to turn that down. Get out of here.
Yeah, riding a dinosaur, and I also want to say that he debuted in 2005. Did Justin Verlander, and that was the first year of MILB.com, and I started writing in 2005. Game recaps, and I don't know those. I don't think those exist on the internet, but I'm curious if I incidentally wrote a game recap of an early Justin Verlander start. But he is certainly the only player whose playing career predates my start at writing about minor league baseball. So I've been clocking these milestones throughout my career of like the last speaking of Toledo, the last minor league player who was older than me, who was actually like playing in the minor leagues and not rehabbing, was home run king Mike Hessman. And now another milestone passed. Now after Verlander goes, there will be no one whose playing career is longer than my career covering minor league baseball. I don't know to be proud of that or just feel like, whoa. Where's the time
Passage
gone?
of
This
time.
is
Yeah, exactly. Ben, you had a great question before we started recording, and it is Justin Verlander related, Justin Verlander adjacent, I guess. And I have been racking my brain to try to come up with the answer to it, but pose this question once more.
yeah. Well, Verlander is, the oldest player in baseball, 43. We hope he comes back, and he's planning to. He hopes to, for a few more starts before he's done at the end of the 2026 season. Max Scherzer, who pitched a game in Vancouver recently with the Vancouver Canadians, we'll see him again. He's 41. But right now, this moment, neither Scherzer or Verlander are on an active roster. What Major League Baseball pitcher is the oldest player on an active roster right now as we are speaking? I would never get this if I hadn't looked it up yesterday. Never.
Yeah, it's weird that there isn't just like a guy who pops to mind because I feel like for
Let me,
so long it's been somebody like Justin
yes.
Verlander or Max Scherzer or one of these kind of older guys that you're aware of the fact of like, oh, that's the elder statesman. And behind dudes like that, yeah, nobody is just like immediately springing to mind.
Yeah, this guy is, and this is not a knock on him.
Is this like Chris Sale or something?
No.
He's probably well, if he's not the answer, he's not the answer. But I'm just trying to think of like
I will say this.
I have.
He is a reliever.
Oh,
I
okay.
kind of figured he would
Oh,
be.
it's got to be Aroldis Chapman.
It is not.
Really
Great guess
Great,
though.
great guess. Yeah.
interesting.
Is it Kenley Jansen?
It is not Kenley Jansen.
Chapman's 38.
This guy has had again, he's still pitching. And so I got nothing but respect for him, but he's had a pretty unremarkable career in terms of like, yeah, your mind goes to these veterans who you just inherently know.
Give it to us. I don't know. I
Yeah, I
don't
don't know
have
if
it.
I'm gonna get this.
Reliever, American League, American League West, Texas Rangers, shares a name with the lead singer of Coldplay.
Oh, Chris
Chris
Martin.
Martin, no way.
Chris Martin turned 40.
And it was all yellow. We used to make so many good Rocky
June
Schlitter, Chris
2nd.
Martin Coldplay jokes back. I mean, that was when that was, I guess, 30 at that time. That was probably 10 years ago. Chris Martin is the oldest pitcher on an active roster in Major League Baseball right now.
And
Wow.
also the fact that he was just activated on July 4th.
Yeah, yeah.
He
He was
does.
on the IL before that with a right shoulder impingement and was activated on July 4th. So just sneaks onto this list.
Yeah.
He's got a whole lot of salt in that salt and pepper beard in his baseball reference photo these days, which is a situation I am quite familiar with. He did not debut in the big leagues until he was 28. His 2014 season was his first major league season. He was with the Rockies that year, so that would have been the year that we made all the good Chris Martin jokes. Then he went to the Yankees for a season. Then he played 2 seasons in Japan and came back over. But that means that once, I mean, like I at least for now, I guess if Justin Verlander doesn't come back, I'm now older than every pitcher in the big leagues because I'm older than Chris Martin. So that, whoa. I think I'm also like a month older than Max Scherzer, maybe like. Let's see what Max Scherzer's birthday is. Yeah, I'm a month older. Holy smokes. Oh
Yeah,
no,
it comes
never
for us
mind. Max
all.
Scherzer's 84. Thank God. Keep Max Scherzer.
Yeah. No, it
Oh,
comes for us all. I always thought I'd have if not a Jamie Moyer, a Bartolo Colon, R.A. Dickey, a guy who would
A
like
Rich Hill. A Rich
a
Hill
Rich
was,
Hill,
yeah,
yeah,
was
Rich Hill.
carrying
who would like
so
stay,
much for so
who
many
would be a
people.
little older than me and just carry it all the way, into my mid 40s. But I was done. Once Fernando Rodney was out of the game, that was it for me. He was the
Wow.
last, and it
Man,
looks like it's coming for you too,
I'm
Tyler.
getting close. Yeah. Sam, the time is waning. Enjoy
I
it.
got years, baby. I
Enjoy
got a
it now while you
long
got
time.
like the Aroldis Chapmans and the Craig Kimbrels of the world because time waits for no man,
Yeah,
Sam.
and players are getting younger. We just don't have the same number of like older
Yeah.
veterans around. I mean, because like who's 40 right now? I mean, I think Carlos Santana and Andrew McCutchen both signed with the Braves recently to maybe get
I know
back
Kutch
in.
did for sure. Yeah.
There aren't many guys even like in their late 30s still on active rosters. It's grim.
That's oof, man. It's This is going to send me into an existential spiral, but most things do. So I'm familiar and comfortable with it. Well, all right, fellas, good stuff. Justin Verlander, a salute to you. He made 20 minor league appearances in that debut season. He has made 9 combined in the 21 years since that debut season of 2005, the second overall pick in 2004, riding off into the sunset and into the arms of Kate Upton and retirement. That's Justin Verlander's future. But a big congrats to JV on a legendary career. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of the show before the show. And for Sam Dykstra and Benjamin Hill, my name is Tyler Maughan. We'll catch you next week.